Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. My dear students, I welcome you again in another very important topic today. And this time we are going to talk about the importance of note-taking while listening to lectures. As we already had this discussion on the importance of lecture listening, and that lecture listening is very challenging and very important, and that listening is a very important skill, and it is root to information and knowledge, and a very rich source of developing our spoken language. At the same time, it is challenging for all of us to be in the class and then begin to understand and retain the information that is said in front of us. So the most important factor in this regard is that every student, once he comes to the class, he always has a kind of a preparation that what's going to be taught and discussed in the class. So he always predicts and plans accordingly and makes necessary preparations for his lectures. But once he's in the classroom, once the teachers begin their talks, and he is going to face all the challenges of listening, like the speed and the information at the same time flowing with a very fast pace, and then retaining the information becomes very challenging for students. So realizing that the more information that we can retain, the more we can learn from a lecture. So my dear students, we have a very important skill that we call is note-taking skills. So there are very rare rules to learn about the skills of making notes while listening to lectures. It is highly subjective. You will listen to a lot of scholars and everybody will tell you something different. So, I mean, it's something that is very, very subjective. I mean, I should say not objective, because it depends on your personal knowledge and your own attitudes, your preparation, your self-evaluation, etc., and then your skills of writing and then listening at the same time. So there are no fixed rules as such. However, if we see some of the studies, they inform us that lecture listening can be very efficiently learned or made effective if the student follows 3 basic rules. So these 3 basic rules are really, really very, very important that we'll talk about today. Now, in these rules, something that before I tell you about the rules, I tell you, once you are going to listen to a lecture, try to brief yourself. I mean, try to talk to yourself. How important is this lecture? As I said in my last talk, prepare yourself, predict yourself, predict about the teacher, predict about the environment, predict about where you are going to sit in the class, the dynamics of the class, the dynamics of the teacher, the speaker, the material, and everything. So you need to brief first yourself that what you are going to face after a very short while, once the talk or once the lecture begins to unfold in the class. So my dear, the first thing is that you need to be very, very selective about making notes. When it comes to making notes, you need to be very selective that what is more important for you and what you want really to note down. So it all depends, like if we have a first year student and a final year student sitting together for the same course in a class, then the notes that they will make will be definitely different. The reason is that the first year student will have many things more important rather than just writing down everything. And then the final year student will, of course, have something more important, some kind of a variation. He might not take enough notes. I mean, he might not take he might take a couple of notes or 3 or 4 notes. And the first year student will take everything on the board, and he might think that everything that's coming is important to him, because there is a difference of levels. So when a topic is presented or a lecture is given by the teacher in front of you, you are supposed to be very, very selective in making decisions that what is being said is worth noting or not. Now that is a very critical factor. Now if you're going to miss something in it, you are going to miss the whole. So it is very important, and all you can do is to make this right judgment of what is important and what is not important depends on how you are well prepared when you are coming to the class. How well did you brief yourself while you are coming to the class? So if you're very well prepared, then definitely you'll make very good selection. So the first important rule then for making good notes is to select what is more important. So the first thing is selection of points. If the teacher is explaining, he is talking, you'll have to note down what is more important and what is less important. So this is what we call rule number 1 is be selective. Decide what is important and what is not important for you. So if you even miss out a few important details, don't worry about that and forget about it. Just keep on moving with the pace of lecture, and then just focus on one thing, that what next, what more important is coming. So you need to focus on what is important in the talk for you. The second important rule is that you need, while you are listening to a lecture and you are making notes on the sheet in front of you, you need to be very brief. So the second rule is brevity, your sense of writing notes in very short words, as we say, abbreviations, acronyms. You got your self symbols that you can generate yourself, because everybody, as I said, there's no hard and fast system on the in the literature available for us. So it all depends on your own effort. I mean, you can make your own symbols. Like, for example, we hear for many years that, writing VIP or writing AKA, also known as, or as soon as possible, ASP, ASA, this is a kind of a symbol. You can write your own diagrams, you can write your own some certain symbols that can very quickly help you write down the main information on the page, and then you need to be moving forward. So the second important thing is that you must have in your class, when you go, you must have learned by then some symbols for writing down the important things and indicating those important things on the pages that you have. And the third important rule for note-taking is that you are very clear when you are writing. I mean, so that once you come back to read them, you could be able to read them. Otherwise, it's all going to be just scribbles on the page. So all you need is to be clear. Now, how can you be clear? You can be clear by making mind maps on the page, and by making small clusters, by making small circles and on the page, and then just so that you could give some mental connections to the talk that's being coming from the teacher. So the most important thing for you now at the third stage is that you are just focusing on the main ideas that come in front of you, and then you are able to give some kind of connection to each point. You could do that in a number of ways. Again, it all depends on you, that how you are more comfortable at jotting down the ideas one after the other. So I mean, you could have numbers for that also. Number 1 is more important, number 2 is less important, or 3 or 4 or 5. So I mean, you could have your own system of signs, or I could say some kind of clusters, or some kind of lines, or some kind of stars, so that you could list up on the page that, well, this idea is indicating to this, and this idea is indicating to this. So I mean, there must be a kind of clarity in what you write down on the sheets. In other words, if I say something which is more important also, that is, once you have completed the lecture and once you are out of the classroom, you must not give a long time to reread those notes and then rewrite those notes, because your pages might have some just scribbles or some sketches, so that you need to see them very immediately after the class is over. Because if you are giving longer time and you forget for weeks, then it's not easy to reconnect and then develop the lecture into a very good talk. Now we have got video classes and online classes, so you have got the advantage of playing back and forth and then noting what is coming and what's next, and you can see, and you can do everything. You can play with the talk of the teachers the way you like. But once you are in the face-to-face classrooms, it is very important to make most out of listening, because there are lots of challenges that listening poses to many of learners, and many of the learners leave classes with empty heads, very unfortunately, and they just come and go. So best students, smart students, take the benefit of this by preparing properly and then following certain rules. I mean, just today I was telling you that if you want to really take the best benefit out of listening to lectures, is taking notes. I mean, every good student must have a register with him. That is, first thing that you write could be, just the date on the top of it, or the topic on the top of it, or even supposedly you could have your own sheets in your registers or in your notebooks, where you could be writing the names of teachers or the names of the topics, and then just filling in blanks. So filling in blanks could be another way of making notes, a very good way of making notes. However, I would still stick to the 3 rules that I found very, very important and very useful to my personal experience. When I was abroad, I was in England in a university. We used to take research foundation classes. I found that when we have got a lot of information not only being recorded, we got the facility of recording the lectures, but if not, then we could note all those important points on our registers, on our pages, and then make small notes, and immediately after classes we'll sit down and then develop them, reread them, and then rewrite them again in a better way, so that we could make at least a 70% or 80% of the lecture on our pages. So my dear students, I hope that you will try to follow these instructions, these 3 basic rules of note taking while you're listening to lectures, and these will help you a lot. These will not only help you in developing your knowledge, but these will help you develop your level of concentration and your level of motivation and your level of interest in the talk that is coming. So if you're just active with your pen, your paper, with your ears and with your eyes, I'm sure your mental, your cognitive and your level of knowledge is going to improve, and improve significantly. So I hope that this talk is going to be useful for you, and in the end I would just say that be a very good listener. Listen as much as you can. Listen to all the important talks that you'll find nowadays on YouTube, on different news channels and various forums. I hope all these listening exercises, listening talks are going to strengthen your listening skills, your knowledge and your confidence. So hope to see you again very soon on pre-listening exercises. Again, we're going to continue to talk a little more on this topic of teaching of listening. So see you very soon on pre-listening exercises. So take special care of yourself. Thank you very much. Allah Hafiz.